Hello everyone, my name is Joe, welcome to the Genius of Joe. If you don't know me already, I just want to quickly introduce myself. So I'm a professional portrait photographer looking to help out other portrait photographers not only improve, but to make work that will stand out to the rest of the industry and break free of that boring and bland portrait work that you see online nowadays. So if this is interesting to you and or useful, please subscribe, and also once I've gained your trust, top links in the description is my one-to-one monthly portrait photography coaching, where I personally go through your portrait work, I give you feedback, I can critique it, and I'll just give you any portrait photography advice that I've gained over multiple years of experience, so you can get it right from the start and waste no time at all. So again, if you're interested, please, top links in the description, you can sign up today, but more about that at the end of the video. So let's get into the video. Today, we'll be discussing, does gear matter in your portrait photography? Now, you may have watched my other videos and you might think, wow, this guy uses the most expensive shit and he expects me to get the same results as him. Yes, I actually do expect you to get the same results, because yes, I may use some things that are more expensive, but that doesn't mean you couldn't get the same look with cheaper alternatives. In portrait photography, gear, at least its like price and quality, isn't as important as you may think compared to other genres like sports or events. Like if there was a tier list for how expensive your gear needs to be in each photography genre, portrait photography would be quite low on that list compared to something like events, again, like events or sports. And maybe it would be above street photography, probably, but that's really it. I just want to quickly mention, my first ever camera was the Nikon D3500, and that was about like a £300, £400 camera body, and had like the shitty kit lens, the 18-55, they had a variable aperture. Like, it was a shit lens, but I still took pretty decent portraits with this camera, and I'll put some on the screen. So you might see me use more expensive gear now, but it was never always like that. But from the knowledge that I've gained from using that cheaper gear, I've been able to apply that with my newer gear. So don't think as if you need the most expensive gear right now to take good photos. Cameras and lenses are a different story. They're more complicated. I feel like you would need to have more expensive cameras and lenses. I actually will talk about that throughout the other part of the video. That cameras and lenses are a different story. More expensive is probably better. It's gonna be easier to shoot with, but it's like my Nikon D3500, for example. Like, in terms of ISO, like you couldn't go past like 400 ISO before it starts getting extremely noisy and like unsavable, right? Unsavable? Yeah, unsavable. But with my Canon R6, I can push that to like fucking low, 10,000 ISO, and it still has quite decent noise. It's not really noise in it, it's actually still usable. So again, if you, and I would just quickly suggest, if you have a camera like that which can only go to like 400 ISO, outdoors is probably best for you. You can use it in studio environments, but obviously you need more powerful lights, and I don't know, you got to upgrade. It's just like, that's just the hard reality sometimes. You just got to upgrade, which I do talk about throughout the video again. So anyway, guys, I'm just gonna go back to the park with me now and say hello to my cat. Hello. Yeah, okay. Yes, does having more expensive gear make it easier, and does it help? 100%. Guys, I'm not this gear doesn't matter advocate at all. I've literally made a whole video on why gear does matter. But like in that video, I would say, despite the fact that gear does matter, it doesn't mean you cannot make do with your limitations and create great photos with the equipment you have right now. It also depends on the type of portraits you want to take and the type of work that you do. So if you like to take portraits outdoors, you may only have to rely on like your cameras and lenses. But if you're in a studio, you obviously have to rely on your cameras and lenses, but you also have to look at your lighting and your backdrops and all that type of stuff. Now, what gear should you buy for your portrait photography? Well, guys, it's 2024, right? Most cameras at like decent budget levels are great. They have great autofocus, have good build quality, and that's what you really need to look for in your portrait photography. Is it reliable? Good? Does it have good autofocus? Then it's good for portraits, right? Obviously, there's other aspects like megapixels, but that's more of a preference. And most cameras nowadays have quite good megapixel counts, where it wouldn't really matter that much. Lenses can be more complicated, but even then, like, I use quite cheaper lenses and I've yet to have any issues with it. And cheaper, when I say cheaper, I'm saying like £500, like £500, $500, $600 range. That's what I'm talking about. I've actually made a whole video, which I'll actually put up here, on what cameras to buy and lenses to buy as a portrait photographer. It appeals to basically like every different budget level. So from like the more less fortunate, let's say, photographers who have not much of a budget, to the more expensive, more luxurious photographers with more of a bigger budget. So I think that's a very useful video for any of you guys to watch. If you're experienced, if you're a beginner, great video. And like in that video that I said, do not cheap out on gear, because you will notice that in your photo experience and in your editing experience, right? So if you're a photographer, don't expect to spend like £300 on a lens and like £500 on a camera body, or dollars on a camera body, right? Like these photographers I've seen on Instagram, they're like, oh, guys, suggest me any cheaper alternatives, my budget isn't that high. So you assume the budget's going to be like £500, £600 for a lens or something, right? You give them a lens option. For me, I use the Sigma EF 50mm, which is like about a $500, £500 range, and that is a great lens. And then you give it to them, and they're like, oh, that's too expensive for me. If £500 or dollars is too expensive on a lens, you're in the wrong fucking industry, guys. Like, fair enough, if you can't afford it, that's fine, but don't expect to get anything extravagant or anything crazy with like £200, $300 or anything like that, right? Just make do with what you have already. Stop trying to buy more gear and fix your shit before you upgrade your shit. That's a little quote that my friend said before about a reel that I made about gear. It's quite funny. But yeah, let's say you want to take studio portraits, but you don't have the funds or the budget to have a studio and to buy lights and to buy backdrops, right? Firstly, I would suggest you actually book out studios, photo studios, which you can do for actually quite cheap, actually, depending on what city you live in. If you live in like a quite like, if you live in the countryside, you probably isn't any photo studios near you, but if you live in like a major city, you could probably find a quite cheap studio that you could rent out for an hour or two for under £100 or dollars, which I think is pretty decent if you want that experience in a studio. And usually when you do rent them out, they give you their lights, they give you their backdrops, they give you all the facilities, so you don't have to worry about buying any lights extra. Like that money that you put into that into renting the photo studio comes with the lights, it comes with the equipment, which is really great. But if you don't want to rent out a studio, you just have to stick with the outdoor stuff, the free outdoor locations until you can afford a studio. It's not just about the gear that you have, but it's how you use it. So let's say you have photographer A, right? You have two photographers, photographer A, photographer B. Photographer A has access to all the expensive equipment and studios, have the most expensive backdrops, have all the best models, but they just use the same 3-point lighting, the boring beauty lighting that creates no depth and no message, and it's just boring. It looks good, but it's boring as fuck, right? On the other hand, photographer B only has access to 2 cheap strobe lights, right? But they experiment with a bunch of different lighting techniques. They try out new poses. They make sure the model is wearing something unique and different. Who do you think is going to take better photos? Well, the obvious answer is the latter. Like I'm trying to teach you guys through this channel and through my coaching program, it's about improving on every aspect of your portrait photography and not just your cameras and lighting skills, but also the more neglected and more underrated facets of your portrait photography, like your outfits, your poses, your locations. If gear is such an issue for you, you have to think about and focus on everything else. So think about the poses, your locations, your outfits. So for example, if you're photographing a model who is more extroverted, have them doing more extroverted poses. Maybe they'll have them taking up more space. Have them in more extravagant areas, make them wear more colourful clothing. If they're introverted, do the opposite. I have plenty of videos discussing how to improve those other aspects of your portrait photography to help make your work stand out and to make it pop. And if you're still stuck, again, top link to the description is my coaching program where I will give you even more clearer guidance. So, to answer the main question of this video, does gear matter in your portrait photography? Yes, it does, but it is not a cope to take bad photos And you have to think beyond your cameras and lenses and lighting and think about what is in front of you, the model. Are you a portrait photographer looking to enhance your skills and to stand out to the rest of the industry? Well, I can definitely help you with that. I now offer one-to-one monthly portrait photography coaching where we go on multiple calls a week. I critique your portrait photography work. I personally go through it. I give you feedback. I just tell you how to improve. And I just give you any photography advice that I've gained over multiple years of experience so you can get it right from the start and waste no time at all. It is a monthly subscription, so if you don't feel comfortable coming to a month plan just yet, you can actually book individual one-to-one calls with me where we basically go over the same things, I critique your work and everything like that, but it's just like a taste tester of what it would be like if I was to coach you monthly and full-time. So if you're interested, top links in the description, you can sign up today. And let's just start accelerating your portrait photography progress, guys. Let's stop messing around, watching loads of YouTube videos, making loads of mistakes on your photo shoots, and just get it right now instead of just taking years to understand what you need to do. Anyway, guys, that is it for the video. Thank you for watching. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Do you think you need the most expensive gear to take good photos, or does gear not matter? Do you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever? I don't know. Click on any of these videos here or here to learn more about portrait photography, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.